Far away, in a dark corner of the universe, there was a world called Eleron. It was a beautiful planet once, glowing blue skies, silver mountains, and rivers that shone like glass. The people who lived there were not like humans. Their skin glimmered faintly under the light, and their eyes were bright like stars. They were taller, stronger, and wiser. For thousands of years they built cities that floated in the clouds and towers that touched the edge of space. But peace never lasts forever. Eleron was dying. Something deep inside its core began to break. The ground shook every day. Fire cracked through the surface, burning forests and melting metal towers. The air turned thick and heavy with smoke. The oceans boiled and the creatures inside screamed. The people of Eleron knew their time was ending. Scientists on the planet tried to save it. They worked day and night inside glowing silver domes, studying the heart of the world. But one of their own, a dark scientist named Vorak, had a different plan. He believed Eleron should be reborn through war, not peace. He built weapons stronger than anything their people had ever seen. Soon his army rose against the rest, and Eleron turned into a battlefield. Flashes of light ripped across the sky, mountains cracked, giant ships hovered over burning cities, firing blue beams that melted everything in sight. Families ran, but there was nowhere to hide. The air was full of the sound of screaming and thunder. And then came the monsters. They were once living things from Eleron's deep oceans, but the war had twisted them. Radiation and strange chemicals changed their bodies, turning them into terrible creatures. They grew giant claws, long tails, and jaws that could break stone. They attacked everything, friend and enemy alike. Among the chaos stood one lonely figure inside a tall glass tower, a scientist named Vex. He had spent years studying the planet's fall and had built one last ship, small but fast, with one mission: to carry the seed of life away from Eleron before everything died. Arian placed a single capsule inside the ship. Inside that capsule was a living being, something born from the planet's ancient energy. It wasn't human. It wasn't beast. It was something in between. It had green veins that glowed faintly, and a heart that beat with strange rhythm, slow and heavy like thunder. It was still weak, almost dying, but Arian believed it could one day save another world. He whispered to the creature through the glass. "You are our last hope," he said softly. "You must live, even if we die." The tower shook again. Outside, the war raged closer. Blue fire rained down from the sky and the ground split open. Arian slammed his hand on the ship's panel. The engines roared to life, glowing bright gold. "Go!" he shouted. "Fly and don't look back!" The ship shot upward through the smoke, leaving behind a world that was tearing itself apart. Arian watched it rise through the clouds, tears glowing in his alien eyes. The explosion that followed was so loud that it swallowed his scream. Eleron cracked open like an egg. The fire from its heart spilled into space. The planet broke into glowing pieces that drifted away like dying stars. And the small ship, carrying the last creature from Eleron, flew into the cold emptiness of space. The ship traveled for many days, maybe months, maybe years. There was no way to tell time in the silence of space. Inside, the creature slept, its body floating gently inside the glass pod. Sometimes its heart glowed softly, as if it was dreaming. Outside, stars moved like slow rivers of light. The ship passed broken asteroids, dead planets, and empty moons. Its engines hummed faintly, following a path no one could see. Then one day, a small blue world appeared far ahead. Earth. The ship turned slowly, as if pulled by a hand. It entered the planet's orbit, spinning faster and faster. Flames wrapped around it as it fell through the clouds. The metal began to melt. Inside, alarms screamed. The sleeping creature opened its eyes for the first time. They glowed bright green. The ship was falling too fast. There was no stopping it. The creature pressed its hand against the glass, watching the clouds burn red. Then came the crash. A giant explosion lit up the night over the Pacific Ocean. Fishermen hundreds of miles away saw the sky turn green for a moment, then black again. The waves rose high like mountains, swallowing small boats. A bright light sank deep into the ocean, leaving only steam and silence behind. No one knew what had fallen. Not yet. Beneath the waves, the ship cracked open. The creature lay still, its green blood slowly leaking into the dark water. It pulsed like fire under the sea, glowing, spreading, touching the fish, the sand, and the currents. Something new had begun. The night after the crash was quiet. The ocean stretched endlessly, dark and cold. Only the sound of waves and the wind filled the air. Far below, deep under the water, the broken spaceship rested like a giant metal egg cracked open in half. Inside it, green light flickered faintly. Bubbles rose, carrying trails of glowing dust. The creature lay still in the wreckage. Its body was long and strange, part flesh, part armor. Its skin shone like wet stone, and its veins glowed green under the dim water. Around its chest were sharp lines that looked like armor plates, but soft enough to move when it breathed. It was alive, barely. A small leak of blood escaped from a wound near its arm. The blood mixed with the water, swirling like green smoke. When it touched the sea floor, something strange happened. The sand began to move. Tiny sea creatures nearby started to glow faintly too. Fish swam through the glowing cloud and turned pale. Their eyes became silver, and their bodies began to change shape. At first, no one noticed. The ocean kept its secret. But by the next morning, near the American coastline, fishermen began to report something strange. The water near their boats shimmered with faint green light at night. Some fish floated lifelessly on the surface, their scales shining like glass. Seagulls stopped eating them. The local news called it a strange sea phenomenon. Scientists said it might be phosphorescent algae, but deep down, something else was happening. Something no human had ever seen before. 3 days later, a small coastal town called Crescent Bay woke up to chaos. Early that morning, a group of divers were sent to investigate the crash site. They wore black suits and carried underwater cameras. They joked as they jumped into the cold water, not knowing what waited below. At first, they saw nothing but sand and rocks. Then one of them noticed a strange shadow far below, large like a whale but not moving. They swam closer. "Hey, I see something," one of them said through his speaker. The water around them shimmered faintly green. The divers pointed their lights at the object. It was the spaceship, half buried in the ocean floor, covered with glowing seaweed. The metal was still hot, and parts of it seemed to breathe, like something alive. As they swam nearer, one diver touched the wreck. The metal felt warm. Then a small bubble of green liquid floated up and touched his glove. He screamed, "Something's burning!" The others tried to pull him away, but it was too late. The green liquid had soaked through his suit and burned his skin. They dragged him up to the surface, shouting for help. When the rescue boat arrived, the man's face was pale and shaking. His veins glowed faintly under his skin. The doctors rushed him to the hospital. By nightfall, he was dead. By morning, his body was gone from the hospital bed. And that same morning, a nurse was found bitten in the hallway, her face pale, her eyes glowing green. Within 2 days, more people started to fall sick. It began with high fever, then shaking, then violent fits. Soon after, their eyes turned silver green and they began attacking others. No one could understand what was happening. The news channels called it a mystery illness. The government called it a viral outbreak. But people who saw it up close called it the green curse. Hospitals filled quickly. Streets became quiet. Helicopters flew over the coast, warning people to stay indoors. Scientists tried to study samples of the infected blood, but what they found shocked them. The virus was alive, not like anything from Earth. It could grow in air, water, or even metal. It could survive fire. It moved like it was thinking. When they placed it under a microscope, the scientists saw the shape of tiny moving cells that looked like they were searching for something, searching for life to take over. Far under the ocean, the creature opened its eyes again. Its wound had healed. It felt the water pressing against its skin and the strange pull of the new world around it. It rose slowly, pushing aside pieces of the broken ship. Its body was much larger now. The Earth's water had fed it, made it stronger. It had long arms that ended with claw-like fingers, a chest that pulsed like a drum, and a head with narrow lines that glowed bright green when it breathed. It made no sound, but the sea itself trembled. The creature was angry, confused, and hungry. When it swam upward, schools of fish scattered in fear. The creature reached the surface near midnight. The moonlight hit its wet body. Steam rose around it. For a moment, it looked like a mountain rising from the sea. Then it slipped quietly back under the waves, heading toward the coastline lights. By now, the U.S. Navy had sent ships to block the area. Huge battleships surrounded the crash zone. Planes circled above. On board one of the ships, a scientist named Dr. Emily Carter looked at her screen in disbelief. "This isn't a normal infection," she said softly. "It's changing every hour." "What do you mean?" the captain asked. "It's growing. The water itself is infected." Suddenly, alarm screamed. A sonar operator shouted, "Something big is moving under us." Before they could react, the sea exploded. A massive shape rose out of the water, throwing the ship into the air. The sailors screamed as waves swallowed them. Helicopters spun out of control. One of them crashed into another ship, setting it on fire. The creature roared, a deep, thunderous sound that shook the sky. Its body glowed bright green from head to tail. Its eyes burned like fire. Every roar sent waves rolling toward the coast. People on the beach saw the glow in the distance and thought it was lightning, but it wasn't. It was the beginning of the end. The city feels it. By morning, the ocean looked calm again, but strange things kept happening. Fish washed ashore in thousands. The sea foam was green. Birds flew away in flocks, never to return. Then the city's water system, the one that brought drinking water from the sea, started showing signs of contamination. It began small. A few people got sick after drinking tap water, then hundreds, then thousands. Hospitals were full. Panic spread faster than the infection itself. People fought in stores for food and bottled water. Soldiers filled the streets. Television news anchors wore masks and spoke in shaky voices. And somewhere deep inside the flooded ruins near the ocean, the creature crawled onto the shore for the first time. Its body steamed under the sun. It walked slowly, heavy, tall, and wet, leaving deep footprints on the ground. Its roar echoed through the empty city streets. Windows shattered. Alarms wailed. The monster from the stars had arrived. The virus born from its blood was now inside every drop of water, every puddle, every living thing it touched. No one knew yet that this creature, half dying, half God, was the key to both the world's end and its salvation. The morning sun rose over Crescent Bay, but the city no longer looked like home. Smoke floated above the buildings. Cars stood still in the streets. Dogs barked in the distance, and the air smelled like metal and fear. People no longer greeted each other. They locked their doors and whispered through windows. No one knew exactly what was happening. Some said it was a poison in the water. Some said it was a punishment from the sky. But one thing was certain: people were changing. In the hospital, nurses moved quickly through dark halls. The power was gone again. Flashlights flickered. Inside the rooms, patients moaned, shaking on their beds. Their skin had turned pale green. Veins glowed under their arms and faces. Their eyes were glassy and strange, like they were looking at something far away. Dr. Emily Carter stood beside one of them. She had not slept for 2 days. "Keep the doors locked," she told the nurses. "Don't let anyone out." But before she could finish speaking, a loud crash came from the next room. The door burst open. A man in a hospital gown came running out, blood dripping from his mouth. His eyes burned bright green. "Stop him!" someone shouted. He grabbed a guard and bit into his neck. The guard screamed. Blood sprayed across the wall. People ran. In seconds, more patients began rising from their beds, growling, shaking, moving fast. They attacked anyone nearby. The hospital turned into a nightmare. Dr. Carter ran down the stairs holding her radio. "This isn't an illness," she shouted through the speaker. "They're turning into something else. It's like they're alive but dead." Her words were never finished. The radio went silent. Outside, sirens wailed. Police cars raced by. Helicopters circled the coast. The government called for martial law. Soldiers filled the streets, building fences and guarding bridges. But it was too late. The infection was already everywhere. It spread through water, through air, through blood. Every cut, every drop, every touch could carry it. By the end of the week, Crescent Bay was gone. Streets that once buzzed with laughter now burned with fire. The sound of screaming filled the air. People ran carrying bags, crying children, and whatever they could save. The army shouted through loudspeakers, "Stay indoors! Do not approach the infected!" But the infected no longer looked human. Their faces were twisted, their mouths open wide. They moved fast, their bones bending strangely as if something inside them wanted to crawl out. When they screamed, it didn't sound like people. It sounded like echoes from another world.